Welcome to the Emerald Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Doyle, and on this podcast I speak to different Irish athletes about their highs, their lows, biggest battles, biggest successes, and why they fell in love with their sport. In this episode I chat to the king of Wexford football, Matty Forde. Matty chats about playing for Kilanerin, playing football for Wexford, and his experience playing in the Aussie Rules representing Ireland, and so much more. Without further ado, Matty Forde. Matty, how are you? You're very welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, good. Look, I suppose we're not getting as good a weather as you are, but sure, we'll plough on. We're out of January now anyway, so everything from here is a bonus.
Yeah, I don't miss the cold runs now or anything like that at home. I'll be honest with you, much prefer the heat, even though there's hardship in that too, but I am thankful for it. Tell me, what's the story? You're coaching at the moment, or I know you've obviously played for years, but you're going into the coaching realm now. How's that going for you?
Yeah, look, it's different. There's nothing replaces playing. I've just been talking to a couple of different people recently. I was only on the phone to Tommaso Shea the other day through work, and he was just saying like he's coaching the Kerry under-20s at the moment, or 21s, and he just said like all the external stuff you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with as a player, like he said, is just mental. He said like there's nothing replaces playing. And luckily I played away till I was 41 or 2, and I'm actually delighted I did, and I wouldn't have minded playing a bit longer if I'd have been able to. But it's so hard. You're dealing with so many different things outside that you kind of can't really, I suppose, influence, which is probably the hardest thing. But like as a player, you turn up, you train, you go home, and you're done with it. So look, coaching is different, but I suppose it's probably the next best thing, but it's a completely different challenge to playing.
Yeah, I'd imagine the difference is big because, as you say, you're maybe managing a squad or a panel rather than just making sure you're right. And was there any surprises when you came in where you're thinking, geez, I really didn't think this through about, that I'd have to deal with this and do that? Is it kind of the managing of players maybe?
Well, thankfully, like I've been in Duffy Rovers for the last 2 years, and I've really only been doing the coaching, which is great. Some great lads there were doing the management stuff in terms of pitches and referees and organising facilities to train and stuff like that. So it takes a lot away. And just from my point of view, I just prefer being on the field with players and coaching, because it's the other stuff is what actually takes the time. Look, there are challenges in that as well. Come match day, you're dealing with players and sorry you're not playing and taking this fell off. But yeah, it is completely different. As you just said it yourself. As a player, you turn up, you train, and you've one person to worry about. I think with involved management, whether it be coaching or managing, you're dealing with 30 or 35 players and everything that goes with it. But no, look, I have to say I've been enjoying it. But it's completely different dynamic, and I said there's nothing to beat playing. That's for sure. Yeah,
I'm sure if they could watch you kick a few swingers and they could replicate it, they wouldn't be doing half bad. But sure, that's easier said than done. But you try your best.
Look, we've had a bit of crack at training, all right. One or two lads would have a bit of a challenge with you, all right. But you come out on top more often than not. But it's only a bit of slagging and a bit of banter. They're good lads, and like I said, it's different. But I think the landscape in terms of coaching and training has changed differently, probably from the time I was playing. That I suppose you have to be a little bit more PC with players. I think that the days of the hairdryer treatment and stuff like that have probably moved on a bit. But look, I still think there's a place for it now and again as well, but I think fairly infrequently.
Yeah, I know, because I suppose it's a really tough balance to get, because I'd say lads would rest on their laurels if you don't kind of put them under pressure, and some lads need the arm around the shoulder. It's great saying go into coaching and management, but I'd say when you're there you really see how difficult it can be. You might have more admiration for people too.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and you look back then at your own time and you say, Jesus, was this what I was like? But like ideally, you'd have a group of players. It doesn't matter whether it's at inter-county level or junior club level that are kind of self-policing. If lads expect high standards out of themselves, you have a great chance then, because they're kind of pushing themselves. You can only go so far with, lads won't react to you shouting at them 24/7. They just won't. And I know with the Wexford team we played with, for the most part, we had a lot of good fellas who really push lads on, and I think probably, I wouldn't say done the job for the managers or the coaches, but it certainly helped them where, we were kind of pushing ourselves and pushing each other. And if you can get a group of players who are prepared to do that, it doesn't matter at what level, I think you have a great head start. And I said if they're self-policing, it's giving you a really good leg up before you even start.
Yeah, and just even I want to touch on I know you played with Kilanerin and growing up, and I suppose What was it like growing up playing with Kilanerin, and were you the lad at the top of the runs, or were you the best trainer, or what was that like, I suppose, growing up and getting interested in football?
Well, in my younger days, like we wouldn't have won very little at my age group growing up. My brother Pat, who was 3 years older than me, they would have kind of won everything in front of them, from under 12 Premier the whole way to senior. They won everything under 12, 14, 16, 18, 21, and won a couple of both. So you're kind of always nearly looking over their shoulder, seeing, Jesus, I'd love to play with these at some stage and see if we could win something, because I said I never won anything at my age. So I ended up starting kind of training with them at 14. I think I actually played in a junior football county final at 15, which probably wouldn't be advised, against Starlights in Isle Gate, I believe. I think I was marking Mick Miller, and no disrespect to Mick. Mick was a bit older than I was at the time. So I got an eye opener fairly quick. But no, look, I just wanted to go and play with the adults, and they were training really, really hard at that time. When they went senior, they won intermediate in '92 and senior in '93, and they were training exceptionally hard at that time. And it was a great eye opener for me, going in, that like, this is what's required. If you're not going to be at this level with these lads, of this level of commitment and this level of training, you're not going to be wanted around here. And it stood to me over the years without a shadow of a doubt. I remember we used to do it was a pretty nasty 10k run in the woods up in Ballythomas, which is not far from where I am here now. Really, really tough going. And I remember distinctly one of the first times I ever done it, Pat Murray, who would have played with us. Pat, no disrespect to him, Pat is 20 or 21 years older than I am. So I was probably 15 doing it. Pat was 36 at the latter end of his career. Really, someone who kind of definitely inspired me. Really pushed himself really hard, but he was under that much pressure doing this run. His nose just exploded, and he came back literally covered in blood. You think he was after being in a scrap when he came back. And I never forget. And I've quoted it to loads of people, particularly in Kilanerin, because obviously they know who I'm talking about. But it definitely stood to me for the rest of my time playing, that, look, at train hard and you'll always give yourself a chance. And I always would feel that I was one of the better trainers that we had in Kilanerin. I'd done a lot of stuff on my own, and continued to do that right up to the time I finished playing junior. And I think it definitely stood to me, and definitely stood to me with Wexford as well, I think.
Yeah, no, and he must have been pushing himself really hard. Well, that's a great story to tell anybody. If you want to say, look, if you push yourself, you get the best out of yourself, and you have to ask yourself, are you really giving everything you can? If you hear something like that, like, that's a plain and simple. He was giving everything he could to the cause to try and get himself right.
But this was a fella who, when it was we had a Wicklow trainer called Jerry Farley. He came to the club in '92, and at that stage, I'd say Pat was probably in his early 30s. So he literally never won a medal. He'd probably never even played in a county final, let's say, and he was that determined to try and win some. He pushed himself like that. So he actually played in the '99 county final in Gaelic and Castletown. Pat was 40 and I was 19 on the same team, but he pushed himself for that long, for I think it was at least 7 or 8 years of that kind of a training regime. But it was, to me, it was training in a nutshell. That you've just said it yourself, if you push yourself that hard, you will get rewards. And I'd like to think that's what I did do, and I'd done it over the next whatever. I think I played adult with Kilanerin for 25 years, and that one thing in a nutshell, I said, I'll never forget it. He said he was under that much pressure. That's genuinely what happened to him. He had a Mead jersey, I'll never forget it, an old key pack jersey with number 4 that I think he got from Robbie O'Malley. I don't know where he managed to get it, but he had it. But he came back and it was literally drenched in blood. And I said, I'll never forget it. And I said, I've told probably this story to lads in Kilanerin 50 times. They're probably sick of listening to it, but I think it just summed up training and preparation for me in a very short story.
Unbelievable. So he would have been like the inspiration, I suppose, for yourself then, to say, look, if I give everything, I can go further than him, or I'm going to get the most out of myself. And playing with Kilanerin then, Matty, I know he was like your inspiration. What would be the highlight of you for playing with Kilanerin? Obviously, maybe winning a county title. Is there anything that sticks out where you think that's the highlight for me?
Look, I played in 9 senior football county finals. We won 4, lost 4, and we drew 1. There was lots of highlights. Like I when I went into that team in '96 at 16, like we had a lot of like really, really good players. There was Nicky and Jim Darcy. There was my brother Pat. There was John Hegarty. There was Seamus Hughes. Like, we had a lot of county players at the time, and really good players. But along, as I said, with the likes of Pat Murray, who was of a different age group like they trained unbelievably hard, and it's the one thing that I never forgotten, that always stood to me. I could not believe, and even when I was younger in the field before I started training with them, it really struck me how hard they were actually training. But yeah, like I suppose the highlight, like it probably is the highlight. We were relegated in 2014. We came back up in 2017, but when we came back up, brother Pat was training the team, but I had three nephews playing in the county final, and we went on and won Leinster that year in the intermediate, and I'd definitely say that one. And then the following year we went back up senior, obviously, and a fourth nephew came along, Pat's eldest fellow, who's my godson. So we played the senior football county final with four nephews playing. Look, we didn't win it, we lost it after a bloody replay. But I'd say, look, even though it was a loss, I'd say that's probably the highlight. Being on the pitch with the four of them, because I'd obviously played with Pat for a long time, but it's completely different when the next generation come along. And to play in a county final, a senior football county final with the four of them was unbelievable. It was just a pity we left it behind us, and I think we did the first day.
Yeah, that must be an unbelievable feeling, just to have kind of like a family together. I know the Fitzhenrys and the Duffrey were spoiled, but that's as good as you get too. Very hard to replicate that. I could definitely see how that would be an unbelievable feeling. Matty, I want to talk to you. I know you had a long career with Wexford and football, and it's probably impossible to go over all of it, but talk to me about 2008, because obviously that was a really, really special year. Was there anything that you did differently, or did it just all click? Talk to me through that.
I wouldn't say we've done anything differently. Obviously, Jason Ryan came in, and like I've said this on numerous podcasts in the last, that was 2017 years ago, and now is 2008, Jesus. But like I would say he was the biggest difference. Like I said earlier, though, we had a lot of really good, strong-minded fellas in our squad. We'd probably had a poor enough 2006 and 7, and a couple of tough years, to be honest. But he just brought this. I don't know what it was about him. He kind of annoys me, but I mean that in the best possible way. He's just so enthusiastic. Like he'd be sending messages at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff like this. Like we were thinking, this lad is fucking mad, like, you know. But no, he was great and just so organised. And I think from day one, from the first night, he actually says himself, like, he wouldn't meet us as a group at the start. He met us all individually. He said he was a bit intimidated, like, because he was only, I think he's only 3 years older than I am. So like he was 31 at the time, which was, you know, unheard of. But he'd won the championship with Clongeen in 07 in the previous year. So just so into it, but he was so organised, and I think lads just bought into it very, very quick. And we got going the league. We won the league. We lost no game. We came from behind in several games, which is always a good sign of any team. And we obviously got on a bit of a roll in the championship then. And that game, that famous game against Meath, obviously in Carlow, where we were 10 points down with 20 minutes to go and we won. I think that's kind of where it all kicked off. But look, obviously we went to the Leinster final. We really thought we had a great chance, and we were obviously, I suppose, humiliated. But to get back and get to the All-Ireland semi-final was some going. And if someone had said to me, and I started in 99, 2000, 2001, that you'd be in an All-Ireland semi-final in 5 or 6 years, I think people would have laughed at you.
Yeah, and amazing, because I remember, I was younger, so I was following that year all the games, because I remember at Meath at half time there was loads of people from Wexford actually left, but then there was a contingent that actually stayed because it looked so bleak, I suppose, at half time. But that feeling after the game, everyone running around hugging each other, that was just, as you say, maybe a spark. Because I remember even running onto the pitch, it was just unbelievable to come back. Because Meath were strong back then too.
Yeah, like that was a really strong Meath team. But actually after the match, and I've said it loads of times, even at half time, we were pretty, more or less fairly calm, because we came back from the dead in several league games that year. I think including the league final. We'd been down again for Man in the league final, went extra time, we won it. We were down a few bodies down in Limerick in a league game, because every game mattered that year, because we only got to the league final but on scoring difference along with Fermanagh. We drew the last day up there with them. We were 6-7 points down again Limerick in a league game down in Limerick. It was famous for this unbelievable point. Red Barry scored the ball, came in over his shoulder, and he volleyed it over his right shoulder over the bar. We came back from being in bad positions in several games, so we kind of weren't surprised. I think a lot of people were, that we actually managed, but like there was never actually any panic on the field that day. Of course, we had to do something right to get back into it, and we got a bit of luck along the way with one of the goals. But we weren't going mad after it, but like we felt it was kind of time that we needed to push on, and we lost I think 4 Leinster semi-finals in a row, and we eventually had to win one, and we did. I did again Laois that year, but definitely the Meath game was the catalyst for that, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just even, I know you said humiliating the Leinster final, but I think you played Armagh next, or maybe it was the game after. I remember going to that was an amazing game. Would you say that was one of the best? Because I remember like Francie Bellew was obviously a brilliant full back, but you just seemed to really, I suppose, get the better of him that day, and obviously you got the goal and kicked a few amazing points as well.
Yeah, we had to beat down in a qualifier first, but like we were lucky. We actually got 2 weeks. It was the first time we had 2 weeks from a losing in Leinster to a qualifier for the duration that I played. So that bit of extra time, we actually had to go back and play a first round of the club championship on the Wednesday night after the Leinster final. So it only gave us really 10 days into it. But the extra week was a massive help. And then, as I said, Mr. Ryan, being as enthusiastic as he wasn't going to let us get down too much. But we were lucky. We got a draw again down, or got drawn against Down, which was a decent draw for us. They were surely thinking the same. Back in Croke Park, which was great. So we're going back, I suppose, to the scene of the crime, and we beat them, and it was a horrible day, a very wet day. And then the Armagh game, obviously, but like we fully believe we could beat Armagh, because like we'd said all along, Armagh don't have a reputation of really hammering teams and putting them away. So if we could stay in the game, we felt we might have the legs in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Now it kind of worked out that way. Look, we got a bit of luck with our goal. We got a bit of luck at the other end with, I think it was Brian Malone kicked the ball off the line near the end. But look, we genuinely felt we could beat him, and the very same with Tyrone. So like it wasn't a major shock to us that we beat Armagh that day. But yeah, look, that was probably one of the highlights to win a game like that. I think Kerry Galway played after us, so by the time the game was over, from half time there was a big crowd in there. So a lot of them were shouting for us.
Yeah, no, it was a great day out, because I remember myself, it was unbelievable. And Matty, I suppose, because we got back to another 2 or 3 Leinster finals, what do you think it was that maybe stopped us from maybe getting over the line? Because as you said, a lot of lads who play with that Wexford team, I thought were very good, and maybe underrated players too, that never got probably the credit for how good they were. What do you think maybe stopped us from just getting over the line to get that Leinster title? Because I feel we were definitely good enough.
Well, obviously, I think the closest one was 2011. I had finished after the end of 2010. I finished. I had an operation on my back. I got hurt badly in a club game in 2009, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. I played nothing more for 2009. I played no league in 2010, and then played a couple of championship games. But I was finished. I was in bad shape. But like the 2011 final, I suppose, was the one we really got closest, and probably just a bit of belief. To be fair, it was Dublin, obviously, who beat us and beat the lads again. We still had a really good team, Colin and Red and Kieran and PJ, and you can keep going, Eric and Brian, and it was probably just lacking a little bit of belief maybe. Dublin had been there and had done it on numerous occasions, and look, that counts for plenty when you're trying to get yourself over the line, and we've seen that in previous years with trying to get from the cycle of the semi-final hurdle to get to the final. But I think that was probably really the one that got away on the lads for sure in 2011.
Yeah, no, it was a very close game. And look, as you said, Dublin were so dominant and a good team in their own right. It's just sometimes it just doesn't work out maybe the way you want it. I can't skip by, Matty, without talking about 2004, getting top scorer and getting that All-Star as well. That must have been an amazing feeling for yourself. Obviously, you'd think to yourself that you're doing great or whatever, but to get the All-Star, to really see that as a reward for hard work and what you'd achieved, amazing feeling, I'm guessing.
Yeah, look, at the course, and I've always said, and I genuinely mean it, I would have swapped it in a heartbeat to have won a Leinster final, because the rest of that group were putting in no less or no more effort than I was, and it would have been, I think it'd have been just reward for what we'd done around that period, probably between 2004 and 2008. Look, we ultimately didn't get it, but look, on a personal level, sure, like there's nothing better than winning an All-Star, winning Footballer of the Year. I was top scorer in the National League, I was top scorer in the Championship. We played in the Railway Cup final that year with Leinster. We played international rules. The only thing I didn't do was actually win something with Wexford or win something with Kilanerin. It definitely, it obviously means a lot to me, probably, and I'm sure my family and club and stuff like that. But the team winning or the team victory certainly mean more, because it covers a greater number of people in a greater area, I suppose. But look, of course, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't exceptionally proud of winning an All-Star and winning Footballer of the Year. It's Wexford's only one ever, and it's what is it? It's over 20 years later, and it's still the only one. So look, of course, it's unbelievable to have it. It's probably the stuff of dreams. I actually missed the first league game that year. My brother got married the day before it up in Armagh. I was captain of Wexford in 2004. So I just said, I knew I had been training very hard anyway. So I just said, look, I think the best way to lead is by actions rather than words. So look, it was a great year, but I don't know. It kind of pisses me off. People say, "Oh, that's the generic kind of GA answer," but like we had a lot of really good players, and you said it yourself earlier on. And particularly playing corner forward, you need good players. Which you can't dominate a game in there without the ball. And like we had a lot of super players, which absolutely aided and abetted in me being top scorer in the league and the championship that year, and ended up obviously winning those two awards.
Yeah, it's very modest of you, but I do agree with you to a point too. Like that, there was a great group of lads, on that Wexford team as well. And I always think to 2008, this is never I spoken about as well, that we lost to Tyrone by 6 points. I know you went off yourself at half time, but Kerry lost to Tyrone in the final by 8 points. Now, obviously the game could be different, but that just speaks volumes about how good that squad and that team was. And it does annoy me sometimes that I suppose the wider views around that time, we just didn't maybe get the credit that we maybe deserved, including yourself,
Possibly, like the thing that kind of annoyed me most in 2008 was we didn't get an All-Star out of it. We'd won the league, we'd been to the Leinster final, we'd only lost 2 games all year. One was against the Leinster champions, the other was against the All-Ireland champions. But we got no All-Star. Like there was 4 of us maybe nominated, and I can't remember whether it was Red or Kieran Ling. I think it was Kieran. Definitely should have got one. That was kind of the thing that annoyed me the most. Whatever about getting the credit, look, we knew where we were at the time. It wasn't bothering us in terms of we weren't getting the credit, but I just thought it would have been just reward for 1, 2. I think Colin was nominated as well, and maybe Anthony. I think it was 4 or 5 maybe of us nominated, but I think it'd have been just reward. Obviously, again, it's an individual award, but I think it would have been just a nice touch for one of us to get him. It would have been pretty unusual for an All-Ireland semi-finalist and a provincial finalist not to get one, but look, so was it. But I think most people, particularly in Wexford, that followed Wexford football, kind of would have appreciated the effort as much as anything by the lads that time, like to really dive with their boots on that day again, Armagh, under tough circumstances, 8 or 9 points down at half time, and I think they got it back to 2 or 3 at one stage. But look, we'll never know. I think that Kerry team, had we played them, that was a serious team as well, a different kind of a proposition to Armagh, where they had serious footballers. And I'm not saying if we'd have got to the Ireland final we would have won it, absolutely not. Kerry could have given us a beating as well, but look, it would have been some going to end up in the Ireland semi-final, considering where we were 7 or 8 years earlier, which was basement bottom of Division 4.
Yeah, it was an amazing improvement over the years to get to where you got, and I thought, it was well deserved to get that far too, because it really showed how good that group was, as we'd said as well. Matty, I don't want to skip over because you've half mentioned it. Talk to me about representing the Aussie Rules, because obviously it's the same but it's a bit different. What was it like to play with other players, and what was the whole experience of that like?
Amazing. I went in first for a trial for this in about 2002, 2, somewhere along there, and I remember it kind of vividly. The trial was in Mullingar in Westmeath, and I went up and I went into the dressing room, and I was only in the Wexford panel 2-3 years at the time. I was quite small, I was quite light. I went in and I sat down in the dressing room, and I was sitting between, I don't know if you remember, Finbar McConnell, who played in goal for Tyrone, who was a monster, and Seamus Quinn, who played midfield for Leitrim, who was another monster. And I was kind of thinking to myself, this is the senior dressing room, I should be in the minor one. So I done the trials that year, got nowhere, but I think by the time 2004 came, and the call came again to go, and I was lucky the way it worked out. We actually lost, which wasn't obviously in the plan. We lost the county semi-final, the senior football semi-final. I think it could have been to Sarsfields, I'm not sure. So it kind of freed me up actually to go and play. I was still going to trials every weekend. I was still playing with Kilanerin once we were finished with Wexford. So, but actually to get the call, first of all, to go, and then you make the squad, and then you're actually in the squad for match day. But to play, like, we were playing with the best of the best. There was Declan Brown, De Gooch, Benny Coulter, Sean Cavan, Pádraig Joyce, Kieran MacDonald. Like, it was just amazing. But quickly enough, you can see, and like as I've always said, we had loads of players in Wexford who would have been on any of those county teams that those players were on. But look, it was an unbelievable experience. Like the thing that stood out for me, and like a lot of the local lads and my own lads would have asked after it, what's this lad like? They're all the very same. They're good fellas. They're sound, good crack. They like a bit of crack as much as anyone. when the time came, we had plenty of fun as well, and we had a couple of great nights out after those games. And obviously we went to Australia then the following year. We were there for just 3.5-4 weeks, so it was brilliant. But like, it was just, you were able to learn from them as well, absolutely, and pick up what other fellas are doing, what other counties are doing. But the whole, I think, it was kind of surreal at the time. But I felt that I was well capable of competing at that level, and luckily I played in all 4 tests over the 2 years. And look, it's again, it's something nice. And Kieran has played since. So, but like, it was nice to be the first in Wexford to play for Ireland as well.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I used to love watching it, to be fair. I thought it was an unbelievable thing to watch. I'd say the playing it obviously is unreal too. The 1 in 05, did it seem more like watching it that it was carnage, or what did it feel like at the time when you went to Australia? Like, was it as, I suppose, crazy on the pitch as it seemed that game?
No, it was carnage. So we'd beaten them heavily in both games in Croke Park in 2004. So they were definitely out for a bit of revenge, and they came hard with it. Looking back, like, we didn't prepare well in terms of, we flew out to Perth a week before the first game, and we done a bit of training more or less every day. Like, it wasn't exceptionally hot out there, but it was still probably in the mid-20s that time of the year. Like, you would never do that here. You'd never train 5-6 days in a row before a game. It'd be kind of madness. So between the jet lag and doing all the coaching, it's not an excuse. They were going to beat us anyway, but they were beating us both mentally, physically, and on the scoreboard. I think after the first game, the dressing room literally was like casualty. It was like ER. There was bodies everywhere. There was more lads bleeding. It was as rough as of a game as I've ever played in. And the second test didn't get a whole lot better. They really wanted to lay down a marker after, I suppose, kind of humiliating them the year before. I think we won the combined by about 50 points. So they really wanted to lay down a marker, and they did. And that was kind of nearly the beginning of the end of it. It's been diluted, and there hasn't been as many series since. There hasn't been as many games since. It was probably a pity for lads who really enjoy it, and who want to play it and want to represent Ireland. There's still loads of those lads. I don't think there's any lad playing football at the moment wouldn't relish pulling on an Irish jersey. But it was every bit as bad as it looked, and probably worse, to be honest.
Yeah, and I know, and I was going to say, like, obviously the SNC maybe on the Irish side wasn't what it is maybe today, and that might have helped, but a lot of it, like, there was some tackles and stuff that were just, it wasn't within the rules of the game, let's say. So as you say, they really wanted to lay down a marker, whether it was mentally, physically, or whatever they just had in their mind, and they did it basically.
Yeah, no, they did. Like, and you're probably right to a certain extent in terms of the SNC, but like, we would have had a good portion of the Northern fellas, the Armagh guys, the Tyrone fellas, and they certainly probably weren't lacking in that department. I'd say we would have better knowledge now of SNC, and I'd say the gap probably has closed in terms of that. But this was real, as I said, laying down a marker and physically, there was some really rough stuff. I think there was Trevis at one stage. Was Trevis on the ground. There was Philly Jordan had took an awful head high challenge. He was clotheslined. I think it was Anthony Lynch ran in and was dropped, and I just literally ran in to see was Philly Jordan all right, and I was knocked out, and that was the same fella done all 3 of them. It was Chris Johnson. I won't forget Chris Johnson in a while. He did apologise after. I'm not sure how sincere it was, but no, it was real. It was real. As I said, we're laying down a marker here. We're at home, and yous aren't coming here and doing what yous done to us last year. And I said that was I think it's kind of the beginning of the end of diluting the whole thing. But yeah, look, it was, as in terms of an experience and getting to play with the players I played with, and getting to know them, which was even better, was just brilliant.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I'm not sure about the sorry after knocking out 3 lads. You know what I mean? It's you can't really think fair play for saying sorry.
I'm not sure how genuine it was. I think he got banned for a test or 2, but I don't think it put him out too much, to be honest. I don't think he played after that anyway. So, but no, it was every bit as bad as it looked. I said, and worse. After the second game, like, it was carnage as well in the dressing room. So, it was tough. It was tough going.
Yeah, geez, no. Thinking you're going for a game of football, and you're going for war abroad almost in Australia. But tell me, Matty, who would you say is the best player, I suppose, you've played with? I know that the lads were saying maybe to ask you, and you maybe didn't tell them, but when you went to the Aussie Rules, but even thinking of that, or maybe with Wexford or Kilanerin, who would you say springs to mind? You say that's the best person I've played with.
Oh, look, there's too many. I suppose if you're talking about playing with Ireland, sure, you're playing with literally the very best of the best. Like I said, from Gooch, Tomas O'Shea, Pádraig Joyce, Kieran MacDonald, Tom Kelly from Laois. You can just keep going. Graham Canty from Cork. It just doesn't stop. Benny Coulter, Paddy Bradley. You can keep going. It's literally a who's who. I think if you keep it closer to home, and I've always said it, Red Barry is without doubt he is in that category. I don't doubt that for a second. Kieran Ling is 100%. I think of the younger crew that, Brian Malone has done what he's done for Wexford is unbelievable. A great footballer, a great fella, great leader. You can keep going. PJ. I think closer to home, there was my own brother, there was John Hegarty, there was Nicky and Jim Darcy, there was Seamus Hughes. We had, as I said, I was lucky to come in, and a lot of my, I suppose, preparation and stuff for matches came from what I learned in Kilanerin from the very early days, from these lads, which I have a lot to be thankful for, because it definitely stood to me over the years. So there's so many, but I said, I've always said it'd be very hard to pass Red. He's as good as anything I've ever played with. He would have been on any team, I think, anywhere. So I think he's right up there at the very top.
Yeah, and I tell you, Matty, you'll probably know more than me, but it just always appeared when I watched him as well. He obviously he could use both feet, but he just seemed incredibly intelligent on the pitch. It was like he had always had space and always seemed to make the right decision on the ball as well. Would that be true? Even playing with him, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. It was just if you made a run, you got the ball. There was no shouting. There was nothing like that. He done the right thing almost all the time. But he's like what all great players have in any sport. He always looked like he had so much time on the ball, and that's what all great players do. In you look at any sport, whether it's rugby or hurling, Gaelic football, soccer, it doesn't matter. They look like they're doing it on their own terms all the time, and he did. And he then obviously changed when I finished. He actually moved further up the field and went into the full forward line, and then he started scoring quite heavily as well. So he could do it all, and he did do it all. But his range of passing, I think you mentioned the Armagh game. There was one score near the end of that game that I got, that he kicked in with his left foot, with the outside of his left foot, about 40 yards. I was actually still carrying an injury, a hamstring injury, so my runs weren't either very quick or very far that day, but I made a short run to my right off Francie Bellew, and he picked me out. The ball literally landed in my chest. I never moved. But the outside of his left foot was just unbelievable, and he scored a point that day in that Armagh game with the outside of his right foot from close on the 45. But he could do it all. He just looked like he's one of those players who looked like he was doing everything on his own terms all the time, and that was the case for a long time, both before and after that as well. He was just fantastic. He was obviously a great hurler. He was a brilliant rugby player. He won a high jump or a long jump in school when he was in Roscrea. This fucker could do everything. He literally could, and he was really, really good at everything. And he's a top fella on top of it as well, which makes it even better.
And with those lads, there's a part of you is you're really fond of them and like them because they're so talented and they're nice guys, but there's another part of you saying, God, this fella is good at everything, and nearly drive you crazy, If he went to play golf, he'd probably land on the green, that kind of way.
Yeah, no, sorry, I forgot that he's actually a good golfer as well. He was obviously a very, very good rugby player. There's no doubt he could have made it playing rugby at a really, really high level. But I wasn't so fond of him when we played St. Anne's, to be honest. But he's a fella that you couldn't dislike. A great lad, messer of the highest order. But yeah, look, there's days you could only just sit back and kind of admire what he was doing. And he soldiered on. He played in a junior county final for the Anns last year at 42 or 3 years of age. So look, he doesn't know anything to anyone in Wexford or in Rathangan for sure.
Yeah, no, unbelievable player. I'm glad you mentioned him and gave him a credit as well, because he's just unbelievable to watch over the years. Matty, on the other end of the spectrum then, because I suppose you're going to disagree with me now, but every time I watched it, I felt like you were getting 8, 10, 11 points. But was there ever who was the hardest player, I suppose, that marked you? Was there anybody you felt that just made life difficult, or it was just really hard to get around and get scores off?
Yeah, definitely. I always felt that whether you marked a big fella right, well, I'll have an advantage on him because I'll be quicker, or if you marked a small fella right, I'll have an advantage on him because I'm bigger, or if you marked a really quick fella right, I'll have an advantage on him because somewhat. But the Sean Marty Lockhart was a nightmare from Derry. He was quick, he was aggressive, he was one of these lads who never spoke to you, which were probably the most dangerous lads of all time. The lad that mouths at you and tells you what he's going to do was probably not going to do as much. He never said anything. He played football, and got to know him off the field years after. And again, like I'm saying with the lads playing with Ireland, incredibly nice fella, really, really good fella, but just a nightmare to mark. Tough as nails. Good footballer, could play football, could get up the field and play football or score. But he's probably the one that you would have sleepless nights about, to be honest. And then I said, what made him more nine, he's a really nice fella as well. So we've met off the field several times and had a great crack and probably had a pint on one or two occasions. But yeah, he is the one that sticks out more above anybody else by a long, long way.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. I was thinking the likes of Mark O'Shea and that, but you'd nearly forget because you'd nearly go to Kerry and Dublin because maybe they've won the All-Ireland or the titles, and Derry haven't won as much. But yeah, he was a great player as well. Great, really great.
Yeah, like we never really came across. We only played Kerry once and was in a challenge game down in Kilanerin in 2005. Actually, only a couple of weeks before we played Dublin in a Leinster semi-final that we should have won. And I think it scored 1-7 or 8 down there that day in this challenge game. So like we never played them competitively. To be honest, I was only looking at Mark O'Shea's Laker Gale was on the other night, and to be honest, I was glad that I never actually had to mark him. Probably keeping him scoreless would have been an achievement, but we played Derry. We ended up playing Derry a lot, and it was invariably him. But for some reason, they must breed cornerbacks in Derry because there was 2 or 3 other guys up there. There was Kevin McGuckin, who was as big as I was and every bit as quick, who was a nightmare. Francis McEldowney was a small fella up there. There was I think it was Niall McCoy. Jeez, like there was so many of them, but John Marty was the worst of them in the best possible way by a mile. But yeah, look, you don't get too many easy rides playing intercounty football. It was probably a bit different that time, where you had more one-on-one battles. So somebody like him was very, very tough to get the better of. I think it's starting to go back that way now. Hopefully, with the rule changes, we'll see a few more one-on-ones. So I think maybe Derry could do worse than see is he still got a pair of boots.
Yeah, go and get him on the pitch again. Matty, how do you feel how do you feel about the new rules? Do you see them and think I would love to be involved here now and I suppose kick points galore? Do you think it's tougher? How do you feel about the new rules?
Yeah, well, like to be honest, that's not too dissimilar to what we would have played in without specifically having 3 up the field. There was you got a lot of one-on-one battles, which was great. Yeah, I wouldn't mind playing now. Like the last probably 10 to 12 years, no thanks. It was gone. You didn't need to be able to defend. There was just so many guys there. All you needed to be was a number and be a body. I think it'll go back. I think it definitely will encourage teams and coaches coaching one-on-one defending again, which is an art in itself. And I think I said, looking at Laker Gale the other night about Mark O'Shea and looking and I said the likes of Sean Marty Lockhart, they were proper defenders that could defend one-on-one and didn't mind. The rules will. I think the rules, just looking at one round of the National League last week, I think they will definitely help the scores. There was very high scoring games. It'll help the teams who want to try and play football. There is a few tweaks need to be made. There's some of the rules I wouldn't be too enamoured with the 50 metre penalty and stuff like that. I think maybe only in extreme cases. But look, I think they will tweak them. At least they've done something because it needed to be done badly. Like the amount of league games, I suppose, particularly early in the year, we've seen in the last few years 11-9 and 1-9 to 10 and this kind of thing. I think they're probably going to be gone, which is great. If you're sitting in here on Saturday night looking at a match, you want to see scores. You don't want to see 14 fellas behind the ball. Teams are still doing it. They're getting 10-11 behind the ball, but the game is breaking much quicker. Like I work with one of the Cavan players, and he said Cavan played Monaghan last weekend. Cavan had 50 attacks, Monaghan had 45 or something like that. So it's up and down the field. It's enjoyable to look at again. So long may it last.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I remember looking at one of the provincial games, and it was just one-sided, and I felt really bad start. But I see you can't just go by one game, and now you're starting to see a few of the more of the games, and you can actually see the long-range points being shot for more points and stuff like that. And as you say, I think it's going to be just more adventurous and back to the old way of playing where we all love it, because the sideways, I don't know about you, but if you were inside and watching the sideways passing going on, I'd say you'd go insane.
Yeah, well, look, I've been coaching over the last few years as well, and there's very little you can do. You have to keep the ball. You can kick the ball in, but there's probably 6-on-4 in there. There's no point kicking the ball in. There's really not. Where now it will encourage kicking. I was at the All-Ireland semi-final and final this year, and you'd be doing well to stay awake. And you can understand exactly it was within the rules for teams to get everyone behind the ball and try and break quick. But the ball will be up one end of the field for 20 seconds. It'll be turned over, and all of a sudden it's down the other end of the field for 20 seconds, and nothing much happened in between. They were real. They were close and tight context, but they weren't good to look at as a neutral. There was no enjoyment watching it, to be honest. But I think it has opened up. I think in the Ireland final, it was the kicks to hand pass ratio was 1-5. It was about, I think it was 97 kicks and something like 497 hand passes in the Ireland football final. So like you're seeing teams starting to kick the ball. There's space to kick the ball, and like that in itself is a skill. Like I think people turn up to football or turn up to train just think everyone can kick the ball, but they certainly can't. I said I used Red earlier on, like the likes of being able to kick accurate passes like that into small spaces, but there's a lot more space now, particularly in the top half of the field, and I think it'll only enhance the product. Which people have stopped going to games. You couldn't pay to go to a game to look at what we had been looking at. So I think you will get people starting to head back to games. It'll be different come championship. Of course, it's going to get tighter. You're not going to see 317 to 225 in football matches the same as you do in hurling. But I think it's certainly going to open up the game. And I said a couple of small tweaks, and I think we could be onto something again. So at least look at they've eventually done something, but it was badly needed.
Yeah, 100%. And all you want to do is get more entertainment value for people watching it, and then kids watching, and then they want to play it more. They're getting a football out, and they're starting to kick it around in practice, and the game just turns around again. I couldn't agree with you more. Matty, I don't know whether you remember this, and you probably don't, and I'm going to put you on the spot with a story, but I was up in Dublin one night with a couple of friends. I have to tell you this, and basically we went into Coppers, and we seen yourself there, and you had a pint, and we were chatting away to you, and the next minute you turned to us and he goes, lads, no pictures, because I think you had a game with Kilanerin at the weekend on the Saturday. It was a Thursday night, so we were all there, great chat, whatever like that, great night. And got a text from one of the lads there on the Saturday. We said, better check the game with Matty, see how he got on after all the points on Thursday on the Saturday. I think he kicked 10 or 11 points. And we were just saying to ourselves, anybody else that happens there or goes, bad game, might kick a good few wides, there you go, you turn around and get 10 or 11 points.
I don't remember, to be honest, but I do remember making a point of not really trying to not do anything like that, the week of a match or anything like that. Look, it could have been a league game, Kilanerin, or having a clue or something like that, but I always said to myself, I won't give anyone the ammunition to say, well, look, this lad was out acting the bollocks during the week and didn't perform at the weekend, because look, no matter where you went, someone would see you or someone would spot you. So I had it in the back of my head for a long time that, look, I won't give anyone the opportunity. If I'm out to play shite, that's on me, but I won't let it be said that there was an excuse or there was a reason for it, and certainly not been out drinking anyway. But if I won, I was probably alright anyway. But if that happened, I'd say it was probably the one and only time that it did, and that's been fairly genuine.
Yeah, no, I think it was a couple of points, not a mad one, let's say, just a few. But isn't it strange though, or terrible in a way, that the conditioning of yourself, and like when you compare with soccer and rugby, that sometimes the GA, that you just get 3 or 4 with the lads or something like that during the week, and that it's nearly so frowned upon almost. And I think it was that after the Euros with Ireland that one of the lads had a Carlsberg in the dressing room, and then was playing a World Cup semi-final or a Euro semi-final the following week. I think it's crazy sometimes.
Yeah, look at I always felt that just we were training, or we were training too hard to waste it. Like, and I've said to like younger lads and lots of lads, like, you can do both. Like, you don't have to be a monk for 12 months of the year. There's a time and a place, but like if you're playing championship or whatever, you need to look after yourself. Like, the culture in rugby is to have a few drinks after nearly every game, but that's what it stays at. It's, if you're playing championships match today or playing on a Sunday or playing again the following Saturday, and you go out Saturday night and you're out half the day Sunday, like that's not ideal. Like, I was never one. I've no interest in going to the pub for 2 or 3 pints. I just stay at home. It wouldn't, and it didn't bother me. I just didn't care. But they said it was a time and a place. There was always a time to I said, put it mildly, let your hair down. But there was also a time to cop onto yourself and say, well, look, I'm after doing too much training to literally piss this down the drain. So, it is strange. It's kind of it's the culture. It's the culture of GA. We've seen all the crazy stuff. Lads putting drink bans on from the middle of March till the championship is over and stuff. It's madness. But if you can, and I know guys in county teams, and I know lads in certain counties, they'd be happy enough to say. I remember when Pat Rowe was over us in Wexford in 04 and 05. Like, we got to the league final in 05, the Division 1 league final, and on at least 2, if not 3 occasions that year during the National League, Pat would say to you, look, lads, we won today, go have a few pints tonight, don't take the piss, and we'll see you train on Tuesday night. And lads did, and the aforementioned Redmond Barry on one occasion decided that would be a good idea. We weren't with him. Thankfully, we were up in Gorey. They were in Wexford because it was only a few pints, and we got our few pints and went home. Us nice north to the county lads, me and Colin Morris and Anthony, I think, and I don't know whoever else, but the lads decided in Wexford it would be a good idea to go to the casino. So they ended up in the casino in Wexford till about 4 o'clock. Sent some message to Pat Roll on the lines of, it's your round next around 4 a.m. Pat didn't take too kindly to this, and by fuck did he run us to death's door on Tuesday night. I've never experienced anything like it. It was torture. So I think that put end to the lads getting any more than a couple of points after the match. But look, he to be fair to him at the time, he was like, I'd say sensible enough to just say, look, you can have a couple, it's not going to make any difference, don't let it turn into like a 4 a.m. job. And look, we can sit back now and laugh, and it's funny, we went out the following week and won again as it happened. I don't know, we beat Limerick or we beat Sligo or someone, but so I don't see a big problem with it if it's not taken into a day and a half's drinking where it should be 3 or 4 pints. And I think particularly after a win, it actually enhances a bit of team spirit and stuff like that. And especially if in an inter-county setup, it'll get people talking. What if lads go into the pub and have 2 or 3 pints? No big deal. I'm sure the likes of Dublin that probably done it over the years. Kerry definitely would have done it. It didn't affect them, but it's just time and place, and then having, I suppose, known when to stop.
Yeah, 100%. As you say, the 3 and 4 pints is good, but once you hear the word casino, it's nearly almost code red. It's, if you're there, that's never good news.
Yeah, well, look, you can't get away with anything now anyway with social media and smartphones and stuff. Now you can't get away with anything. But I mean, like most players now, particularly at the inter-county level, are smart enough to know, look, I'm not going to jeopardise my chances of playing next week or something. If you're, I suppose, let off the leash, for want of a better phrase, go have a couple of pints but go home. I know, and it was only literally at junior level we were with Duffy Rovers the last couple of years, and once we made the knockout stage, I think we won the quarter final. We said, lads, look, we're in two county semi-finals, go get a couple of pints tonight, don't let it run into tomorrow. And it's actually strange, a lot of them actually went home. They didn't even go for it because we said we're allowed to go. If you turn around the other way and said nothing, they'd be trying to sneak out behind your back, and sure, we all done it. Lads be trying to go out behind your back, but actually when you tell them you can go and to go have a couple, to have a bit of a chat, they enjoy their own company, it's a bit of team spirit, and then they're happy enough to go, and you're probably on a winner then. It's like I said earlier on about the training. If it's kind of self-police, and you're in a great position then that lads kind of saying, oh look, we've done we've had our bit of fun, now we'll head off and we'll get ready for the next one.
Yeah, I know 100% what you mean. It's like the big red button or the do not enter sign. Everybody wants to
do not push. Yeah,
it just happens.
And if you tell them to push it, they probably won't want to. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Matty, just to end, just to ask you, who do you fancy for the All Ireland this year? I know it's as a start, it's early in play. Is there any team that you think might bounce back, Armagh again, or what do you think?
It's going to be the usual suspects. Like, you can't, and particularly with the new rules, it's literally like starting from scratch. It's going to help, I think, the teams with the bigger squads. If the game has gone so aerobic and mobile again with the new rules, like the middle 6, 8, 10 players are going to be doing so much running. I think you're going to need the bigger squads. You're obviously looking at the Division 1 teams. I'd be very surprised this year if the All Ireland champions came out of Division 2. I just don't think they will. They did last year with Armagh. You're looking at Galway have probably been on the road a little bit too long at this stage and haven't been able to get over the line. They've a lot of miles done. I think it's the usual suspects. It's Dublin, it's Kerry. There could absolutely be a kick in Tyrone, and I think with new management, and obviously Donegal are in year 2 with Jim McGuinness, but anybody probably outside of those 4, I think it's not really narrowed it down, and it's probably a generic enough answer. I think will be a surprise. It's going to be a different game. You're going to see lots of kicking. You're going to see the likes of David Clifford, who I see has been rested again for this weekend. He's not even back in the Kerry panel yet come September. Getting lots of space in Croke Park. They're going to be handful, or June and July, not September anymore. They're going to have lots of space. It's going to be like Dublin with all the retirements. Paul Mannion, Jack McCaffrey gone now as well. Probably a little bit back, but not too far away. They were very impressive against Mayo last weekend. But I think anybody outside those 4 for me would be a big enough of a shock. But I think it's very hard to call at this stage. I said with the new rules, I think it's very much a level playing field again.
Yeah, it's interesting to see who might adapt to it the best and just come out on top. You know, the team with the best shooters maybe or whatever might come in. The thoughts of David Clifford getting more space, I'd say, is a headache for every defender in the country.
Yeah, I should look at. Of course, it is. Like, you know, they were doubling and trebling up on him, and even at that, they were struggling. Like Chrissy McCaig marked him in the quarter-final or semi-final in the last 2 years. Like, and he was one of the best. And look at another bloody Derry player who was an unbelievable defender, and Clifford destroyed him. And that was with like a lot of guys behind the ball. But I think as a forward, it's just exciting that we're going to be seeing David Clifford with lots of space, Derek Canavan with lots of space, Oisin Gallen with lots of space. Like, it's back to the days of probably the early 2000s where, you know, you're going to see forwards kicking 6, 7, 8 points again. I think it's great, to be honest, as a forward, because you want to see scores, and you said it yourself, you want to see entertainment, you want to see scores. But I think, like a few lads have said to me since, Jesus, I actually bumped into Aidan O'Shea in Mayo or in Galway a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago coming after a wedding, and he says, geez, you'll nearly come back playing now. And I said, well, I wouldn't go that far. But there's going to be space there again. I think we're going to see, and we've seen it in the club championship, like, and it goes. I meant to say it earlier when you mentioned about rules. Like, a lot of the rule changes are because of negative and negative tactics in coaching. Like the All Ireland Club Championship this year in the football was really brilliant and really open, because the teams are just going to have the likes of Eric Kilkieran, the likes of Kula. They just went and played football, and you were able to see like the Canavans and Conor Callaghan and stuff like that get space and get one-on-ones, and you're seeing brilliant scores. So like, I think that's we needed the rule changes, but a lot of it was down to coaching, and like, it's just easy to get guys behind the ball and block it up, and then you're hoping you get a few scores the other end. But I think the way we're going to see the return to brilliant forwards again, actually being able to get space and kick scores, and, you know, long may it last, and I can't wait.
Yeah, 100%. I really hope it lasts and we get a great year of football. Matty, thanks very much for coming on. Definitely my favourite footballer of all time. I absolutely want to say that. It was brilliant watching you over the years at Wexford and Kilanerin, even if it was against the Starlights. But absolutely great to watch. Great player, and thanks very much for coming on.
Not at all. Look, and hopefully you'll grow that fairly shortly, and you can start looking at David Clifford or someone like that there. No, look at your grand. It took a bit of time to get there, but we got there in the end anyway.
Yeah, perfect. Sound, Matty.
Thanks for listening to the Emerald Athlete podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave a review, and don't forget to check out our Instagram page, the Emerald Athlete Podcast.